this one. Back with old friends like No ID. Who's tonight's director. Nobody argued the point. A lot of people asked us to do it again, so it's gratifying to get the chance to do it again, so it's gratifying to get the chance now. No ID. Personally, I've never met anybody who didn't like the incredible true story. Not tonight. What we do have is a thriller. It's half as good as we think it is. You can call it classic. Quite possibly. A little escapade of mine involving a couple of planets, which shall be nameless, is responsible. Doesn't really matter. A story doesn't have to appeal to the heart. It can also appeal to the spine. And with two magic words.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning into my channel. I just want to thank all my Instagram followers, first of all, for encouraging me to do this. It's something that I've always wanted to do. It's been in the making for a while. And I just finally decided the time is right now to do it. So without further ado, I'm going to be breaking down Logic's No Pressure album. I know a lot of my followers on Instagram, big Logic fans. I'm also a big Logic fan. So it's the first one I'm going to do. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first track off No Pressure is the title track. It's the intro. And right off the bat, you can already tell this is going to be a different project from Everybody, The Incredible True Story, Confessions. Logic always likes to paint a cinematic entrance to his albums, but here Logic is coming in rapping right from the beginning. You get the little clip at the beginning, welcome you to the program. He threw in the Metal Gear reference, which I thought was very interesting and a cool little Easter egg considering he just signed a deal with Twitch. But it's clear right from the beginning here, Logic's here to rap. Like he said before the album came out, this is a return to form. You can tell this is Under Pressure's sequel. It's something that he holds dear to his heart. Under Pressure is arguably his best album to date, in my opinion. No Pressure, though, definitely does live up to the hype. I'm going to get into that more throughout the course of this review and as I get more into each song. But right from the beginning, it's clear this isn't a Confessions of a Dangerous Mind where it's just turn up rap, sound of Bobby Tarantino, sound of Young Sinatra. This is Logic, and like I said at the beginning, this is his last album. So he gave it everything he had and went out with the bang, in my opinion. So the second song on the album, Hit My Line. I like this song a lot. It's down to earth. It reminds me of OCD, no pun intended if you know what OCD is, because Down to Earth is featured on that. But I really like this track here. It's very introspective. It's basically Logic outlining a conversation he's having with God since his life's changed now. One of the things I like about this song so much is one of the lines he has on it, and don't quote me on this because it might not be 100% right, but he says hashtagging, but in real life people never pitch in, something along those lines. And to me, that just outlines so much with today's day and age with social media, where everybody runs to their phones when something happens, they post the trending hashtag. It's always pray for this. A lot of times, though, people aren't found when actual action happens or like there's a call to action. And I don't want to get too much into this because like it's a touchy subject, I know, for a lot of people. But basically here what I like that he's doing is he's saying people are just posting these hashtags just to get likes and like they're not gonna turn out when it matters, which a lot of times in cases is true. So I think it's something that's just deep, it hits home. And he's talked about this before where I think it was on Everybody, where he basically said a similar message, but he tweaked it around. It was hashtag pray for this, pray for that, but you're not doing anything, get away from that. Something along those lines. And it's just the same concept here applies. People always run social media to tweet and get involved, and they do it for these likes, these follows, just to feel like they're a part of something instead of actually being a part of it and living in it. So, I really respect that he would have the courage to throw that line in there because a lot of people could take it either way. So that's why I don't want to get too much into it. But, I just thought that was a real line there and something that really stood out to me. And then moving on next to Growing Pains 4. This is just pure nostalgia in my opinion. It takes you back to the first time you listened to Under Pressure. What I actually didn't know until I saw the interview that he gave about this. And now that I listened to it again, and I've listened to this album multiple times, to say the least, is that he's rapping about the experience from Growing Pains 3, and he's telling you what actually happened on that night. So it's a good bridge to bridge you back to the original album, which is something I thought was very cool. I respect it a lot. As I said, I didn't even pick up on that the first time, so anybody who says Logic can't rap, go check that track out. I guarantee it'll make you change your mind then. And, just Growing Pains 4 is just so nostalgia. He's talking about his mental health again. He says, don't care who's rhyming the fastest. My anxiety makes me spit at a mile a minute. So it kind of just gives you an insight to what he's been going through these past few years, and then he'll obviously build on that more as the album continues, which is something I really enjoyed. And that brings you into Celebration. Celebration was an early standout for me on this album, but in light of the situations that have happened now with Silas on it, it's a touchy song. It's a song I really like. I hope Logic does something with it. I've seen videos and posts on the Reddit where people are hoping Silas gets removed from the track, which, it's understandable. What he did was wrong. And replaced with Castro, which I think would be very interesting. It'd really tie the whole album together, make everything come full circle in a way, if you think about it, because Castro and Logic haven't gotten along lately. A lot of people wish they would go back to how they were on the original mixtapes, which, I'd be opposed to seeing. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that. So, I liked the song, but I wish there was a way to skip the Silas verse now. And it's a shame what happened, and I feel bad for any of his victims and everything that happened. My condolences go out to you, because this is a guy that a lot of the Rat Pack threw all their support behind. We thought he was the one Logic was passing the torch to. And it turns out he just doesn't represent the message of peace, love, and positivity. And basically it was just really scummy about everything, which there's no place for anything that he did, and I feel bad for all of his victims. So, kind of ruined the track a bit, but I hope Logic does do something in the future to fix that up, because like I said, it was an early standout for me. That brings us into Open Mic Aquarius 3. The highlight for me on this track was the beat change. I love the beat change on Midnight, but I think this one just blew it away. I think it's very cool how he's going from rapping in a kind of like a small, intimate setting, and then you get the beat change, and it goes right into Aquarius 3, where he's talking about social media again. The line here that stood out to me the most was scrolling so much, my thumb is messed up, call that carpal tunnel, which, it's relatable. You're sitting here on your phone like this all day, scrolling through social media. I think that's a very clever line, something not a lot of people think of in the long term. He's just showing, again, how social media literally runs our lives. And everything we do, everything we post about, it's all related to about what's going to get the most likes, what's going to get the most views. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but social media releases a dopamine that's similar to feeling to like runner's high. So it makes you feel good when you see a like. And, Logic's been pretty vocal about that in the past. He attempted to get into it on Confessions, which some of the tracks on there, he did do a good job at it, but I think it fell apart a little bit. Not to say that's a bad album. I like it for what it is. I'm not going to bash it or anything like a lot of people have in the past. But, I think just the whole topic of social media that Logic's getting into here on this album so far is something I can relate to. I'm not posting something just to get 30 likes. If I post something, I want to get a bunch of likes. So, that's led to me, kind of stepping away from social media in a way, because I realized, I shouldn't be posting things just to get likes, or I shouldn't be posting things just to make it seem like my life's amazing. I should be just posting them just for no reason at all, just because, hey, this is what's going on in my life, not to get a bunch of likes and everything. So the next song here is Soul Food 2. This is another callback to a previous song on Under Pressure. He got the original sample that he wanted from Under Pressure to be on this album, so this is his version of what Soul Food would have sounded like on Under Pressure. I like this song. It's nostalgia again. The line that stood out to me the most here was, even when I win, it feels like I'm losing. Something along those lines it was. Not 100% sure if that's right. But, I was watching an interview that he gave, I think it was with Nick Huff, and he talked about part of the reason he decided to step away from rap was because he's selling out arenas. Like, he sold out MSG, which is a huge accomplishment. And then he goes on social media or he goes online and he sees people just bashing him. So he's talking about when he's up on stage, he should be the happiest person, but in the back of his mind are all of his insecurities, basically, of people telling him he's not good enough. And, you know, his rhymes are bad and he fell off and he needs to go back to the old Logic and all this, blah, blah. So, I mean, in a way, it kind of opens you into a little bit of his thought process of why he did decide to retire, which, you know, at the end of the day, it is sad, but I'm going to support it. I think him retiring to be a father is a very admirable thing, especially knowing his situation growing up. His dad wasn't really there, and he's always talked about when he has a son, he's going to be there for his son. So I have no problem with Logic retiring right now and stepping away. I'll get into more of that later because it's retiring, in my opinion. But, I mean, he's not going anywhere. He's still going to be around. Like I said, he just signed the deal with Twitch. So that brings us pretty much to the halfway point of the album where he gets into Perfect, which, you know, Perfect, I heard on the Confessions tour. I honestly thought it was going to be on a Bobby Tarantino 3. But since this is his last studio album, I guess he decided to put it into here. In terms of the whole theme and the style of the album, it doesn't really fit because, like I said, it is more of a Bobby Tarantino, where this is more of like a boom bap, laid back, just focused on rapping, clever punchlines and stuff like that. But I do get why he did it. It's the halfway point of the album, and the album is pretty, heavy in content. And by that I mean his lyricism is some of the best I've ever heard from him. And so this serves as a good kind of like like a breaking point for the album, just as like a little intermission kind of way is the best way I would describe it, where it's just a fun turn-up track. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I don't think it fit too well into the album, but it does break up the album and give the listener, like, a chance to kind of, like, breathe from everything that he's talking about. So, I mean, it makes sense why he would put it in there, but that's just my opinion on Perfect. So after Perfect, which, like I said, was pretty fun turn-up track, just to give yourself a break from all the content he's talking about, we get into Man I Is, which right away you have to be paying attention to. I thought this song was very clever for a couple reasons. First of all, he took the drums from Indica Badu from Bobby Tarantino 2, flipped them onto this song, and put it on a sample of Dreamflower, which I thought sounded very good. It sounds very old school. The bass is really good on here. But the other reason why you have to pay attention, not only just because it comes from Bobby Tarantino 2, is because earlier in Growing Pains 4, he talks about how he just sampled Dreamflower on the actual track. So he's referencing the actual sample from Man I Is back on Growing Pains 4. So it's a nice little like connector to the album. It shows a little bit of his creative thought process. Once again, showing he is pretty good at rapping, contrary to what a lot of people may think. But I just thought it was very clever, and it was a good way to kind of tie the two together. So Man I Is brings us into Dad Bod, which at first I did not like that much. Wasn't a big fan of it. It is starting to grow on me more now, and I kind of get the process behind it and the actual message of it. I guess would be the best way to describe it. So it's a pretty funny song now when you listen to it a couple times and realize what Logic's talking about. He references how everybody wants him to rap about his everyday life. They don't want to hear about the cars, the money, selling out arenas. They want his everyday life. So he's talking about changing his kid's diaper, and he's like, isn't this what you guys wanted? And then, you know, as the song goes on, he goes, you guys don't want to hear that, it's boring, so why would I rap about it? And, you know, it's just pretty funny with the punchlines and how he delivers it. Part of it reminds me of Eminem would deliver kind of like a funny track with a play on words like that. So, you know, it's starting to grow on me. It's still not one of my favorites, but I definitely appreciate it more than I first did a couple times through now. So, you know, it's starting to grow on me more. We'll see in the grand scheme of things how it shakes out for me replay-wise. But, you know, I do get where he's coming from now with the message behind it. So after Dad Bod, we get into Five Hooks, which in my opinion is the best sampling, the best chopping, the best mastering, the best mixing on the entire album. It has another crazy beat switch, which is something that I appreciated he did throughout the course of the album, throwing in all those beat changes, just because it is a longer album in terms of album length with the way we've been shifting in rap music. A lot of artists now are generally looking to stay on the shorter spectrum of things. So this is an hour-long album, so I think that the beat changes do help keep the listener engaged. But 5 hooks is just like, it blows everything out that I've heard so far throughout the album in terms of just the production and everything on it, the way he chops it up. And I think it's very well done. The beat change is very interesting because he's talking about hearing the voice in his head and how some days he just wants to tell it to shut up, but that up never finishes because he gets cut off right into the beat change. So I think that's pretty cool how he did that. And then, also it's pretty clear Kanye was a huge influence in his life, and I think it's on like tracks like these you really see that. One of the interesting things too that I found out after I listened to the whole album was there's only 5 hooks on the entire album, which is pretty unheard of nowadays. It just shows you once again he wanted to get back to rapping. He didn't care about the radio play, he didn't care about all the catchy songs, the hooks and everything. He just wanted to rap on this album and get back to what he was doing back in the basement. We're about 2/3 of the way through the album now. We're in the home stretch, and at this point, the first time I listened to it, I'm like, just please let him finish on a high note. Please don't let this nosedive really quick. And I'm pretty confident when I say it did not nosedive at all. It maintained the level that it was on, which was something I was very nervous about coming in to listen to this album, because I wanted him to get the proper send-off in the end. And to see how well received it has been pretty nice to know as a fan of him, who's, heard from a lot of friends, a lot of people, like, oh, how do you like Logic? He's trash. So it's like, just to see him get the respect, recognition, and to go out on such a high note is something I really enjoyed. And that brings us into Dark Place then, which kind of kicks off the last third of this album. Dark Place is a very, very introspective track by Logic. It's one of my favorite songs from him on this album, one of my favorite songs he's ever put out, just because of how raw and uncut it is. He's basically just opening up his mind to you, and this is more of what I wish Confessions was. I wish Confessions was more of kind of like Dark Place, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Anxiety, where he literally just opens you up into his mind of what he's thinking and what he's feeling. He talks about his insecurities on this song. He talks about depression, anxiety. The line here that really stood out to me was where he says, "I've been beaten and battered, my confidence is shattered." So, it doesn't get much rawer than that. And then he's starting to wonder if rap is really worth it. Because he goes online, he Googles his name, and he just Googles reasons basically why he's worthless, is what he says here. So, I think this song definitely gives the most insight into why he decided it was time to retire. It's just a shame to see that this is one of the reasons, again, that played into his retirement. There's been people like Joe Budden who have just trashed Logic for years now. And, to see, that actually affect the music, I think, in the past couple of years, and then ultimately lead to him, to this being one of the reasons why he would want to retire. It is sad in a way to see, because this is a dude who's always preached a positive message. He's always nice to everyone. He never, besides Joyner, has gotten into beef. So, I just like this track a lot for what it is and how raw it is. And that brings us to A to Z. A to Z is a clever wordplay track, but it's not really wordplay, it's more of sound, which is my issue with the track. I do wish it would have included rhyming the words instead of the sounds. So he's basically going through every letter of the alphabet on this track and rhyming the sounds. That's the short way to put it. That would make the easiest sense, I think. And I would have preferred to see him do start line one with A and end with B, and then line 2 start with C, line 2 end with D, or something along that way. in terms of like the actual words being used instead of just the sounds. Wasn't a bad track, wasn't my favorite, but like it's not the end of the world. Like if he has one miss, in my opinion, or two misses in a 15-track album, like, and they're not even misses in my opinion, they're just not my favorite, I guess the best way to put it. Then we get into Heard Him Say, which I love this track a lot. It's real talk. He's talking about welcoming his imperfections, battling depression, battling his demons, realizing there's so much more to life than just money, cars, fame, social media. So, I mean, I think it's just a really open and honest track. And, he says, we all got problems. The question is, can you solve them? Have the courage to face them all and resolve them. So he's talking about facing these insecurities, facing his depressions, his anxieties, his demons, and trying to figure out what the root cause of them is, and then reaching the point where he figures out what they are. He's like, okay, how can I better myself? How can I do something so that these insecurities or my fears no longer are fears or insecurities? Which, I think that is also another reason why he decided to step away. He just wants to remove himself from all the hate, go live his life, be a good dad, which I give major props to him because it's hard to do and it's very admirable. That leads us to Amen, which in my opinion is kind of the album closer, just because the last song is a 6-minute spoken outro. Amen, one of the key things that sticks out to me is when he says, I thought acceptance from others, it would set me free, but it didn't though. It never did. Once again, it's playing back into his retirement. He was always concerned about what other people thought about him instead of just loving himself for who he is. And if you watch the Twitch stream, when he premiered the album live, at the end of it, he broke down crying, saying that all these years he released albums, he just wanted to be loved, and now he finally loves himself. And I just think Amen sums up so much of that. He doesn't care what people think anymore. He doesn't care about rap anymore. He just wants to do what's going to make him happy. And right now what makes him happy is his family and his child and his wife. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. I mean, after Amen, we get into the final track on the album, Obediently Yours. There's not too much to say here musically wise about this. It's just a 6-minute spoken outro by, I believe, Orson Welles. Kind of just touches on the state of the world today and everything going on. So I think it's a nice touch to the end of what is Logic's career. It's very well spoken, very well put together over soft music in the background, and it represents a message that Logic has preached about his entire career. So that's why I think it fit pretty well for the ending of No Pressure. So now we've reached the end. I was very happy when I reached the end of this album. And a little sad, obviously, because it is his last album, but in my opinion, this is the best work he's put out since The Incredible True Story, without a doubt. It just blew away a lot of my expectations for it, and I had high expectations because I knew he was capable of producing an album like this. And, just to see how well received it's been so far after only a week and a half, it's just like, you can't ask for a better way to go out. So that brings me to the last part of this video. Do I think Logic is retiring? And yes, I do think Logic is retiring. Logic the rapper is retiring. Do I think Bobby Hall is retiring? No. He signed a Twitch deal. We know he's writing novels right now. He even said in an interview he's working on his autobiography. And we also know he's been writing movies and directing movies. And even I think he might be starring in one. So while Logic may be done, Bobby Hall is not done, in my opinion. He's still going to be around. He's still going to be releasing new projects. Will there be any music in the projects? That remains to be seen. I do think, though, and I want to touch on this, at the end of Heard Him Say, it says, welcome to the Ultra 85 program. So I think there's a couple things with this. I think Ultra 85 is ultimately going to be a film he releases one day, and he will release a soundtrack, in my opinion, for it. I think it'll be a soundtrack. It won't be an album. It would be more like a mixtape, kind of just to accompany it, just because fans have always asked about Ultra 85. And then also, Ultra 85 was always about finding the next planet to live on because Earth was destroyed. And to me, that just has always represented Logic looking for his happy place. And he's happy now. He found it. So I think it was kind of like a double entendre this whole time, in a way. And like I said, I don't think this is Logic saying goodbye. I think this is him just opening up new doors, new opportunities kind of a thing to do something that gives him happiness. Because at the end of the day, he has been rapping for 10 years now, and he has put up and been through a lot. So it's taken a toll on him, I'm sure. So I support the decision to retire. I support whatever he decides to do in the future. And, you know, overall, I just thought No Pressure was a great way for Logic to go out. And I can't wait to see what Bobby has in store next. So that's about all I have to say about No Pressure. I'm not going to rank it compared to the rest of his albums, just because it hasn't been out long enough for me to even do that. And two, it's just its own thing in my opinion. It's something that I really enjoy. I'm very happy with, very satisfied with. So I don't want to rank it against his other projects. I don't think that would be fair to do this early on. I will say though, as of right now, I do think this album should be in contention for Rap Album of the Year. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Logic fan. I truly think it is up there with the best of the best that we've heard so far this year. So, you know, I would love to see him kind of get that recognition at the Grammys, even though he says he doesn't care. I mean, I'm sure it would still be cool for him to get the recognition because he did put a lot of work into this album, you can tell. So that just about does it for my review or breakdown of No Pressure. Hopefully, you know, I'll start putting more of these out, maybe like once a week when a new album comes out. Maybe I'll do some live reactions, haven't really decided yet. You know, hopefully the reviews get a little better since I've done this before now. This is a little nerve-wracking in front of a camera, even though there is nobody here. Just to see yourself on the screen recording is a little weird. So hopefully they do get better. If you enjoyed this, make sure to click the subscribe button so that you stay notified and up to date when I drop new videos. But I do plan on trying to do this more in the future, at least once a week. So thanks for making it through the first one with me, and I'll see you next time.